Hey guys, welcome to the second episode of Questlog, a daily video journal series in which I give out my own opinions live from the suburbs of Miami Beach, Florida. My name is Intersix, and this is the topic for the second video. I want to make this more into like a conversational piece with you guys. I will give my personal views, and then I would like to see your views and your stories in the comments at the end so we can sort of interact that way. This topic is going to be dreams. What is it that you want to do in your life, and looking towards the future, what are your interests? Let me introduce myself, what I want to do in the future regarding my life and my content, and we'll just go from there. So, starting out, growing up, I played a lot of games because they were sort of an escape from me from my daily lives, and a lot of times I shut myself in as a kid in order to escape. With that said, I always appreciated the storytelling of gaming as a medium. I appreciated the complexity of some stories. I remember being blown away by Metal Gear Solid, no matter how weird it was. I remember being blown away by Silent Hill and how scary that was, and how the plot developed in this virtual world. At the time, it didn't look that great, but it certainly was there. It had its own sort of quirkiness and its own sort of livelihood, and that's something that I always looked up to. When you think about it, someone had to imagine these characters, someone had to imagine these scenarios, and someone had to put in a lot of effort into making the game work and making the games the way they are. With that said, that's why I value writing and creative fields nowadays, 15 years into the future, because of how much of an impact they had on me when I was a child. Growing up, I remember playing on the original PlayStation. I remember playing on my cousin's N64. I remember coming to America and getting a GameCube out of frustration of not being able to find the PlayStation 2, and just enjoying the storytelling. And that was my first real in-depth introduction to Nintendo games and the way they play out and the way they're written. So gaming hasn't always been the only influence in who I am as a person. I read a lot of comic books and a lot of actual novels growing up. I watched a lot of anime, I watched a lot of TV shows, and attended a lot of different styles of movies. I remember growing up with Harry Potter, with Lord of the Rings, with Star Wars. I remember growing up reading the Harry Potter books and being blown away, at how imaginative they were and how you could sort of like escape into their world. And that led me to want to become a writer and a storyteller myself. While I don't particularly think my medium of the industry would be actual novel writing, I do want to create stories, and I have many of them to tell. Like I said, later on in the future of this channel, I will have a series where I sort of throw out some of my ideas that I don't really want to work with because I want to focus on others, but I still think they're good enough to be made. So if anybody wants to pick those up, they can. You don't have to worry about me calling you out for stealing my ideas because I'm handing them out to begin with. Like I said, growing up with a lot of these stories, it sort of impacts you throughout your lifetime. You read about a lot of these heroes like Superman, Batman. You grow up with Spider-Man. You grow up with Iron Man, Captain America. One of my biggest inspirations as far as fictional characters go was actually Captain America, and how noble he was, and I mean, how noble he was, and just, how great of a person he is. I remember looking up to Superman as well. So if you can see that trend, it's, selfless people who would be willing to, risk their lives for the proper good and safety of others. And those are the type of heroes that I want to portray in my writing, in the way I make games. So in the future, I do hope to make a game that's very complex in story, because another big influence of mine is that I like to watch a lot of imaginative drama movies because they're the best written and they're the most complex and the most interesting. Like, one of my favorite movies of all time is actually Inception, and that is because I always sort of looked at it in an analytical way, in which that I would try to find all of the different Easter eggs and all of the meanings and symbolisms behind the movies, and that's something that I pay attention to on any medium that I watch or read or play. I do value that sort of storytelling over everything else. So, with that said, going into the future, what I eventually want this channel to develop. I never want to lose. First of all, the reason I'm making this channel to begin with is because I want to build a community and I want to be able to interact with you guys out there. When I do eventually make it big, hopefully, I can still have this connection and I can still bring you a quest log every day. But that's the kind of content that I want to be when I make this YouTube channel. I don't want it to be like a let's play, because I feel like I don't get to interact with you guys as much. I feel like I can't have a conversation with you guys and I feel sort of detached from you guys. I want to build a community of support for one another, and a community of support for story writers, and a community for support of indie developers, of people that want to create something. Because at the end of the day, the world turns, and at the end of the day, when you sit down and you watch a show and it can help inspire you, it can cheer you up, it can bring you down, someone had to imagine that. And that's why we gotta value creators, because not everybody can do it. Everybody has the capacity to do it, but not everybody can actually sit down and accomplish a specific task. So that's why we gotta value the creative people and the creators out there, because they make our favorite content. So a thing I notice is that while we all pay attention to the big guys and the already established people, we don't give a solid chance to the little guys. And I think that's a real shame, because they pretty much represent the livelihood of the industry. They're the ones that we will be looking at in the future, and the stories that we follow will be made by them in the future. So that's one of the things I want to make with this channel. I want it to eventually be my connection to a fan base or a viewership. I want it to connect to the people who follow my series and my content. I want to be able to have a direct link to you guys. As far as personal aspirations for the future, I do eventually want to make a game. I also hope that I have enough in order to make a TV show, a proper TV show. Whether it actually airs on TV or whether it will be through YouTube only, I guess we'll find out in the future. But that's one of the aspirations that I have going forward. If possible, a side project that I would like to do is to make a movie, a proper movie. With that said, you can pretty much tell that my livelihoods depend on my writing. I want to be a writer. I want to be a storyteller in the future. That doesn't mean that I will abandon YouTube in any way, shape, or form. It's just going to be, YouTube is going to be like the minor part, the way for me to communicate with you guys, like I've said extensively recently in this particular video. So with that said, I do want to hear from you guys. I want to see, I'm interested in seeing your hopes and what you've been through and what has gotten you to the point and what made you decide what you wanted to be in the future. Because for me, I struggled for a long time. I also want to give a couple of words of encouragement to anybody out there who's trying to be a content creator. Don't give up. We're all here. We're all trying to earn another dollar to keep us afloat. We're all trying to get by. And if you're really passionate, if this is something that you truly want to do, you're going to find a way to do it. And I hope you can join me on this journey going forward. And I hope that you can continue to support me going forward. I hope that you can continue following my content. At the end of the day, I wouldn't be here without you guys. And I could write all the stories in the world, but if nobody read them or nobody saw them, there would be no point. I can't express my own personal views, or I can't put a little bit of myself into these scenarios if no one is going to see them. So with that said, little by little I'll start telling you guys more about myself and more about my influences, but this will have to do for now. If you like this video, press the thumbs up button. If you really like the video, you can subscribe as well. I have a link in the description below for our Patreon if you want to become a supporter. That's another way for you to directly get in contact with me. Actually, the Patreon supporters are going to be able to give me suggestions, and we will have conversations on any other topics that you guys would want me to do in the future. So if you really want to get involved with us, you can go over there. It's $1 a month and you can help me pay my bills and continue to make good content for you guys. Thank you guys for supporting me and watching, and see you guys on the next episode. Peace.